Alrighty, guys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I have a couple announcements before we get into the video. First off, as you can see, I am streaming this live on Twitch, and I have a new schedule. So, every weekday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be streaming. That is the goal. Every weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay? 2 p.m. If it's ever 2 p.m. on a weekday and you think to yourself, hey, I'm kind of bored, maybe I'm live. Come hang out with us, okay? There'll be a link in the description. Click it. You can join all of these awesome people, and we would love to have you. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about a video from a creator that I've actually never watched before, and so I'm being introduced to her content through this video, so I don't really know much about her or her content other than this video. I just want to kind of put that out there. But the name of her channel is Nadia Nymph, I believe, is the name of her channel. Sorry, I'm trying to get myself situated here. So Nadia Nymph is the name of her channel. And the name of this video is Exposing the Origins of the Fat Admirer, Body Positivity Movement. And in this video, she kind of talks about, you know, the origins of the body positive movement or fat acceptance movement as well. And I just think it's very, very interesting, the stuff that she talks about. So we are going to watch the video, and I'm going to share my thoughts.
It doesn't matter whether I weigh 150 pounds or 350 pounds.
And you weigh 350?
Mm-hmm.
375?
375, he'll brag.
Hey, my name's Nadia. Thanks for coming to hang out on this video with me. I'm not actually going to be in this video, but I wanted to introduce myself because you guys have been watching my videos for a little while now, and I'm going to be in future ones, and it just feels like time. So see you in the future, but not the rest of today. For today's video, I want to take a break from the 2022 fat acceptance movement and take a look at the dysfunction that's been present from the very beginning of all of this. I think that a lot of the history of this movement actually explains why it looks the way it does in 2022.
Society feels that we can really change. Black people can change. Other minority groups, other ethnic background, people with ethnic backgrounds, they can change. Fat people can change.
Okay. It genuinely blows my mind that there are people out there that believe that. Like, it is hard to change. It is hard to lose weight. It is very difficult. There are many factors, right? There are many factors that aren't just, oh, you're eating too much. I fully agree, and I believe that it is very difficult, and we need to focus on those things that make it difficult, because being significantly overweight is not a good thing for your health, right? But that doesn't mean that we should just say, oh, you know what? You can't change, because so many people try to change and they aren't able to do it. To compare it to, the color of your skin is mind-blowing to me. It really, really is.
I'm going to focus on the first 30 years, the first two waves of fat activism. Specifically, we're going to look at who's credited with actually starting it, what their explicit intentions were from the beginning, and what they've actually accomplished as a result of these intentions. Despite the popular narrative among fat activists today, it was not marginalized women of color who began this. There are three main white men credited in most every origin story for fat acceptance. Steve Post, who held the infamous Fat Inn in 1967 in Central Park. He actually later went on to say that it was more of a publicity stunt than an actual protest, according to Bill himself here. Nevertheless, this protest inspired Lou Louderbeck to write the article, "More People Should Be Fat," published in the Saturday Evening Post. After reading this article, a man who was married to a larger woman and who identified as a fat admirer named Will Fabrey founded NAFA, the National Association to Aid Fat Americans, in 1969.
So the first thing that I kind of wanted to bring up was, I feel like I've heard that explanation of where body positivity started. I don't know, like fat acceptance, it seems like a lot of people kind of go back to that, like Fat Inn. I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about that, the Fat Inn, and that was kind of the start of things. It seems like more people say body positivity started from, you know, marginalized people in marginalized bodies, right? And like it was like fat black women is what most people say. The reason that I know that I'm splitting hairs there, but I think it's to show that so many people, even because she showed a video from someone that they call themselves body positive or fat acceptance, they even twist those together, and that's what makes it so hard, is that everyone thinks it started from a different reason. So many people think fat acceptance is body positivity and body positivity is fat acceptance. They're interchangeable, when there will also be groups of people that will say the two things are completely separate and they have nothing to do with each other. If you're just a person on the outside looking in, it makes it very hard to understand what the heck is going on, right? That I just wanted to bring that up because, I don't know, it's just something that I've heard a lot.
The official NAFA story is that Bill was inspired by Stephen Liu's work, and that inspiration mixed with the frustration he experienced on behalf of the way the world treated his overweight wife led to the creation of this self-proclaimed civil rights organization and movement. Sounds friendly enough, but let's hear from the man himself what some of his own personal motivations were at the time.
All right, going back a minute, what would motivate me to be even interested in the subject at all? Well, I told her that in school, I think I realized it when I was in kindergarten, that I was attracted to chubby girls. In the course of being
So what we're seeing here is the founder of NAFA, right? Basically saying the reason that I even cared about this and the reason that I even felt like I needed to start some sort of movement is because I was attracted to quote unquote chubby girls, and I felt embarrassed about that because people made me feel bad about that, which in and of itself is wrong. But then that's the thing that motivated him to start this thing, right?
attracted to the larger ladies. I developed a lot of anger about it, about the fact that, that I had to be in the closet about it, that I'm not gay myself, but I totally relate to them because I have, as a man who has always admired the larger figure in a woman, I always felt the similar pressures on me that I realized that gays must encounter when they're growing up. I'll get into that a little bit later, because part of my motivation and my anger was that, how dare anybody tell me what I should find attractive.
That interview is really what got me digging. It just kind of felt weird hearing that from the guy who started this fat acceptance movement. And it made me think, what kind of stuff did this organization get into if the president and founder is someone whose personal interests are rooted in their special preference for larger-bodied women?
I think that it's very easy to criticize, the reason that something started. And I fully understand that just because something started a certain way doesn't mean that that's exactly how the thing is still, right? I get that. But it does not change the fact that the reason this movement started, or at least the founder of the movement started it, was because he had an attraction to fat women and he felt bad about that and he wanted to change that. That is a little weird, is all I want to say. And then again, people in chat are saying this, and I agree. Comparing it to being gay is a little ridiculous in my opinion. But yeah.
We have a name for those type of men, but it's not YouTube friendly. So we're going to call men who have very special preferences for full figures fat admirers. This civil rights group did something unique in that they appealed not just to those who they were advocating for membership, but they also advertised themselves to the people who were especially interested in dating the group that this organization advocated for. And that's a little weird, right? Imagine the NAACP recruiting Black Americans and also the white men who feel they have to be closeted in their preference for Black women. Imagine those being your allies, the men who want to sleep with you. What are they going to do for your cause? Let's find out.
That's a great point.
The fat admirer agenda really dominated the space for the first 30 years, in my opinion. And because of that, I think their most lasting impact has been normalizing the heterosexual preference of larger-bodied women.
It's very hard when people ridicule the type of women that you like and say they're ugly, and they laugh at you when you walk with them arm in arm down the street. Some people.
So again, basically what we're seeing here, it seems like a very selfish act, which in and of itself, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something selfish, but it's selfish to say, it's like I'm trying to help this group of people, not because I really give a crap about their feelings and how they're being perceived and the issues that they're having. It's because people are making fun of me and it hurts my feelings. So I'm going to help them because I don't want to be made fun of anymore, right? That's why it's so weird. It's not even about the women. It's about the dudes that like the women, right?
I like to look at fat people. I love to look at a fat woman on the beach. If I saw Marilyn Monroe or Gina Lollobrigida on the beach, they turn me off. It's just like looking at a bull.
And NAFA themselves did the work to provide access to those larger women. It started from the very beginning with their newsletter in 1971, which we can think of as basically the only social media they had at the time. In this very first newsletter, they announced that they would be hosting a dating service called NAFA Date. It was advertised as a way to link fat people and the people who admire them. NAFA Date remained part of this organization for 30 plus years.
Past 5 decades of NAFA, dating, sex, attraction, particularly for heterosexual folks, has played a role.
Their official dating service was followed soon with personal ads, pen pal programs, and advertisements for pinup calendars or provocative photos that you could order directly through them. Again, we're talking about a civil rights organization, and it was actually the introduction of NAFA Date that tapped Lou Louderbeck out, according to Bill himself.
At that time, when we started that, Louderbeck dropped out because he said, he said, I think you have important work to do, but I don't want to be involved in something that is going to end up being distracted by a dating service.
That was a smart move, in my opinion. Lou still played a role in NAFA, though, and NAFA heavily promoted his book, Fat Power, along with another book called Sex and the Overweight Woman, From a Distinguished Physician, a Remarkable Plan for Weight Control Through the Joys of Physical Love. And the book is apparently as bad as it sounds. NAFA was circulating a book to its members that basically said a woman becomes overweight when she's deprived of physical love one way or another. It was more fat admirer agenda, in my opinion.
My favorite type of content, okay, and this is stuff that exists now, is dudes telling other dudes what women want, okay? Dudes telling other dudes what women want, and also dudes telling other dudes why women are certain ways. It's the best, right? Because they're always right. You know, like the best person to talk to about women is another guy. Duh, hello. That's clearly the best person to go to. Don't talk to women. They obviously don't know. You talk to other guys that clearly have all of the answers because they're so smart. It's the best type of content. It really is very helpful and always correct and never wrong. It's the best.
Right away, they also began hosting national conventions, and these original conventions are the stuff of legend among older NAFA members who like to reminisce online. They're referred to as the original BBW bashes, and the men who attended them were always well outnumbered by the women, apparently. The way guys and older heads talk about it is like they were mostly big adult parties after the speeches and workshops. One man at a 96 convention described it like this: inside every fat person is a volcano waiting to erupt.
Nah. Yo. What? Inside every fat person is a volcano waiting to erupt. I never felt no volcano, man. You know, I'm just going to be honest. I never felt that when I was bigger. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe other people feel differently, but...
The men here, the fat admirers, just stand back and wait for the lava to flow.
But look around this room, she said, and you can't deny there are many attractive women here. This model bride was attractive enough to catch the fancy of the man who stands beside her. They were married a year ago.
I'm happy with my husband, and I'm happy with my life. I'm me. It doesn't matter whether I weigh 150 pounds or 350 pounds.
And you weigh 350?
Mm-hmm.
I like how the the interviewer was like, and you do weigh 350, right? We're just, I just want to make that clear. You do weigh, that's how much you weigh? All right, just, just want to make sure.
375, he'll brag.
Sounds like some productive activist work to me. The special socializing that took place at dances, pool parties, mealtimes seemed to be the actual draw to these conventions. And speaking of mealtimes, according to a reporter who attended in '79, there was a strict rule against photographing anyone while they ate. And I found that really interesting, mainly because one of NAFA's most prominent board members, Conrad Blickenstorfer, was and is an established...
Y'all, okay. That is an evil supervillain's last name. Okay, I'm convinced. There's no way Conrad Blickenstorfer is not an evil supervillain. I'm sorry. Like, come on. Let's be real here, all right? He's related to Doofenshmirtz in some capacity, I'm sure of it. Perry the Platypus is going to show up soon. All right, this is actually not real. It's an episode of Phineas and Ferb. That's actually what's going on here, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Feeder. Again, allegedly. And the act of feeding is something that many allege to have enjoyed at NAFA conventions. A feeder is someone who takes extreme pleasure in feeding larger women or men and directly contributing to their weight gain. Conrad actually established himself as the godfather of feederism through the work he did directly with NAFA. Conrad was a major player in NAFA for about 30 years. He served as vice president in 1986 and as chairman and board member over different periods. In NAFA circles and outside many of them, Conrad is credited with being one of the most significant contributors to NAFA and fat acceptance as a whole. And as a NAFA leader, I think his most significant work came from a special interest group he started called the Fat Admirer Special Interest Group, or the FA-CIG. The FA-CIG was headed and edited by Conrad, and it really was a special project, because even though there were other special interest groups in NAFA, including a feminist one, the Fat Admirers are the only ones who got their own illustrated newsletter. And obviously the illustrations were pretty special too, huh? So the newsletter was full of fanfic, basically, personals, education, and more illustrations. This little NAFA magazine turned into a real magazine called Dimensions in 1988. Again, edited by our NAFA board member, Conrad B. And it was still obviously circulated in NAFA, but it made its way outside of NAFA too. This NAFA-born publication has one of the most highly established feeder and BBW reputations on the internet, and that was especially true in its prime. The magazine itself began featuring full-color photos of real BBW models in lingerie and other provocative imagery. It was advertised to men and women, but there was obvious purpose to this magazine that was much more geared to heterosexual men's desires.
I think that's pretty clear, right? If you've been watching and not just listening, if you've been looking at the images that we are seeing, they are definitely tuned to a specific eye, I'd say. And I don't think that is the eye of other women that happen to be overweight. It seems to be tuned to the eye of dudes that like women that happen to be overweight, right? I think that's pretty clear.
We have to remember that while Conrad was creating this BBW and feeder empire, he was an integral member to a civil rights organization, and all of this work he accomplished only through this civil rights group. He found his target audience fast and capitalized off this movement in a way few others have, except maybe Bill himself, who in 1988 created the company Ample Stuff, which sells specialty products to obese people. Again, he's a skinny man at this time. His company was incredibly successful in the very beginning and still is successful now, just less relevant than before. Bill might rival Conrad in people who have profited the most from fat acceptance, and they're both thin white men. Well, Bill isn't anymore, but he was.
Yeah, I was a lot skinnier then, too.
We're not done talking about Dimensions, though, because Conrad accomplished a lot with this NAFA-born publication. One of the first sensations of Dimensions magazine was the 500 Club, an exclusive club that Conrad created for women over 500 pounds who wanted to model for them. His second member of the 500 Club actually passed away a few years after she was featured, allegedly. And aside from removing her images from their website, they never said anything or paid tribute to her. Conrad also began releasing wide-angle videos on the Dimensions website, which were basically softcore SSBBW vids. I should mention, by the way, that the Dimensions website became a BBW forum in the late 90s for fat admirers and BBWs to link up. And those...
Again, I think what's important is these people that she's bringing up and that she's talking about were integral in NAFA, right? They were some of the highest up people in that organization. That are these little side projects that they're doing are happening in tandem with NAFA, with whatever work they are doing as well, right? That is a little weird, right? That's at least a little weird.
Forums are where I found and learned a lot. Conrad is actually still active from time to time on them, funny enough. And he actually met his wife from a personal ad posted in BBW magazine. One of the beginning BBW video series Conrad released was called The Feeding Fantasies of Betsy. They were videos released incrementally where you could watch Betsy get fed and gain weight over the months. And this is where our NAFA chairman established himself as the godfather of feederism. Conrad's videos were many men's very first introduction into the erotic world of feederism, and they were absolutely enamored. Again, we have to think about this being the very beginning of the internet with no social media. People in the forums I visit describe waiting for these video sets like kids on Christmas morning when there was finally a new video up and it was clear that weight had been gained. Now, we have to sidestep here because in the late 90s, early 2000s...
So something I do want to say, right? All of that stuff, it's weird. It's not something that I'm into, but I am not... Like, if that's something that someone likes and they want to look at and they want to participate in, that's fine, right? Even the person that's gaining the weight, if they want to participate in that, like, in my opinion, that's fine. That's their choice, right? The reason that this stuff is weird is because, again, the people that are running these websites are also very high up in NAFA, right? That's, in my opinion, the issue. If you want to, be a feeder and be in that life, hey, do your thing, right? I think the issue that a lot of people have, and the issue that I guess I have, is... A lot of times it seems like people that are into BBWs, right? Big, beautiful women, it's mainly big, right? That's the thing that they're into. And so sadly, and again, this is me just sharing my opinion, so I could be wrong, but it seems like sadly a lot of times the other person in that relationship that is the bigger person, they aren't fully like, oh, I am a BBW. A lot of times people feel like the only way they can get into a relationship is by being with someone that is a quote unquote chubby chaser, whatever words you want to use, right? This is actually how I felt when I was bigger, kind of joking around, but I genuinely did feel this way. I remember I would think to myself, again, this is like 17-year-old John, man, I wish I could just find a hot chick that's a chubby chaser, because then I'd be happy, right? Because it felt like that was the only way I could be in a relationship. Like, it felt like the only way was if I found some type of person that has some kink, right? Which in and of itself, if you're both consenting adults that understand why you're in this relationship, understand the dynamics between both of you, understand and you're okay with those decisions, then that's fine. I have no issues. But it seems like a lot of times there's one person that has this kink, has this fetish, and this other person is just saying, well, I don't really have any other options, so I guess I'll just go along with it. That's where I feel like it becomes more of a problem. Again, in my opinion.
NAFA officially put out a statement condemning the act of feederism. You tell me how you think that went over in a group that was almost 50% fat admirers, and this is the content that was born directly of that group. It didn't go over well. especially because the act of feeding is something many allege to have enjoyed within NAFA and at NAFA parties and conventions.
They get there, believe me, they enjoy it.
After NAFA put out this statement and got rid of their dating service, a lot of their membership plummeted and Conrad himself left. And this, in a pretty notable way, marked the decline of NAFA. And that makes sense to me because, in my opinion, NAFA was sort of doomed from the start. When your president's only real stake in your organization's cause is his desire to feel more normal about his preferences, what do you think that president's work is going to revolve around? In my opinion, the first 30 years of NAFA was actually very successful at progressing the status and quality of life for that of the fat admirers, and not so much the status and quality of life of fat people. That's not just my opinion, though. In this article published in Dimensions magazine in 1999, our new NAFA executive director, Sally Smith, answers the question, in the first 30 years, has NAFA really made a difference for fat people? She concludes, overall, it's a hard question to answer. But Conrad's answer to this question, for us admirers of the large figure, things have definitely changed for the better. After seeing everything we've seen today, it's no mystery as to why that is. These NAFA men worked hard to normalize their preferences and create new paths to satisfying those preferences.
I think, like, overall, I think it's a good thing that things have changed. I know that, you know, we talk a lot about, like, oh, fat acceptance and blah, blah, blah. But, like, as I say in all of my videos, there are genuine things that fat acceptance talks about that I think are important, right? Medical fat phobia, not getting the care you deserve as someone that's bigger just because you're bigger is a serious problem. Serious problem. Because I know many people, I know myself included, didn't like going to the doctor because you felt like you weren't heard, because they just said you're fat, LOL, lose weight. Like, that sucks. That sucks. Dealing with that is important. And I think that there is a place for that to be dealt with, right? There is a place for people to take on that mantle and really move that forward. But obviously, the start of this movement was not about that, even in the slightest.
Now jump to the year 2022, and we get yelled at almost every day about how thin white people are inserting themselves in a movement that was never about them. Sorry, but it seems to me that this movement is only just now becoming about y'all. Dimensions didn't even have its first Black model until January 2000. And this third wave of Haze-style fat activism actually shut down those who remained from the second wave as soon as they started with all the fake health and science claims. At least that's what I've read online. They felt like they didn't sign up for that BS, and we know that today that BS is basically all that's left here in this movement. I'm going to wrap the video up here for today. I'm probably going to do some follow-ups to this depending on questions and response that I get. I did so much research for this, but I couldn't include everything because I wanted to keep it short and interesting. So we'll see depending on how the video does.
So that's the whole video right there. Again, if you do want to check it out, there will be a link in the description. Make sure you go check it out. I think she did a fantastic job doing all of this research. You guys should go give it a like. Super, super important. But I do want to share my closing thoughts. So one of the biggest things that I think has happened is it seems like Haze has, or I guess you don't want to call it Haze, body or fat activism, you know, fat acceptance. It's gone from one extreme to another. So at the start, it was like basically all about these people that were fat admirers. It wasn't really even about the people that were dealing with, you know, being overweight. But now it's shifted so far to the, you know, other side of the spectrum where now it's like, oh, it's actually impossible to lose weight and it's actually healthy to be more overweight than not. And all of these things that it's like, dude, come on. Let's talk about the serious issues. Let's talk about the problems that there are while being overweight. But let's not go too far because you just lose people, right? And, you know, that's kind of my opinion. That's what I think. But again, great video. Make sure you go drop it a like. Make sure you go give it a watch. Make sure you go give her a subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.